What tools do you need? This is a question that I get asked a lot on social media because people often, when they're starting up, they're faced with such a huge array of tools that are available, and they kind of wonder, do I need all of these tools? Which tools are really the essential tools for me? And how much should I allow in my budget when I'm setting up my business to buy tools? So my recommendations are as follows. You need a good tool bag and you need all your basic hand tools. I'll leave a link in the notes here to my Amazon shop where you can see all my basic tool setup that I recommend. I'll make you a list of every single tool that I started up my business with that I view as kind of an essential that you really need to get yourself started. And obviously it will vary a little bit depending on what kind of work you're doing. If you're doing a lot of industrial work, it might be different to if you're doing a lot of domestic work. So bear that in mind. But from my point of view of starting up a domestic electrical business, this is all my favourite tools listed below. So you need your basic tool bag. You need your hand tools. Then you need some power tools. So I usually would recommend to start with at least a drill driver. Impact driver is not really necessary in my opinion unless you're doing loads of kind of high impact screwing. In general, I just use my Makita drill driver, which has a hammer function and a screwdriver type function. That does pretty much all of my day-to-day drilling needs. And then I've got a larger drill, which is an SDS hammer drill for when I need to do something a bit more heavy, like drilling lots of holes in masonry or doing kind of chiseling out, chasing out, things like that. So probably a drill driver is your basic, then your SDS is a nice bonus to have on top. Test equipment. So test equipment, absolutely vital. I would say that you need a volt stick at least. You need your safe isolation kit, so GS38 test lead, and you don't necessarily need a proving unit, but I find a proving unit is a good way to just prove that your tester is working. And also you will need a lockout kit to be able to work safely to lock off the circuit breakers. So I'll leave a link in the notes as well for your safe isolation kit. And then in terms of actual test equipment for doing your installation tests, or if you're doing EICRs, doing all your tests for EICRs, I would recommend getting a multi-function tester. So a tester that does all the various different tests such as insulation resistance, continuity, earth loop impedance, RCD tests, all the tests you basically need to do when you're completing an electrical installation. My go-to tester at the moment is the Mega MFT 1741 Plus. It's a brilliant tester. Before that I used a Fluke, that was great as well. Both testers I found to be excellent over the length of my career, but a good multifunction tester is important because you're going to need to rely on it day in and day out. How much should you budget? Well, probably between £500 and £1,000 depending on what you go for. The Fluke and the Mega are a little bit on the higher end, but if you've got a tighter budget you could go for a Q-Tech or something like that. I went for the real high-end, top-of-the-range tester to start my business with because I just wanted to be able to have a real workhorse that would be reliable. So I went for the Fluke 1664 FC when I first started, which is about £1,000. But for about £500 you can get a Q-Tech tester, for example, which will do all the things that you need to do. I've not really tried the Q-Tech testers much, so I can't really highly recommend them, but apparently they're quite good. Obviously you've got your Megas, which is what I've talked about, high-end Fluke kind of range in terms of price, very reliable and reputable. You've got the Mitrel, which we have tried and we don't really like it. It's very expensive, but it's very clunky to use. And there are some others out there like TIS and things like that, which I haven't really tried. I'm just commenting on the main brands that are sort of the most well-known, the most reliable, but you definitely need a multifunction tester. That is important. And then other additional testers that are nice to have is a multimeter, a clamp meter, particularly an earth leakage clamp meter is good to have because that comes in handy when you've got problems with circuits tripping the RCD. You can see how much earth leakage is going on in the installation to see if it's nuisance tripping or if it's an actual permanent kind of fault that's in the installation. So a clamp meter is good to have but not essential. So the link that I'll leave below is like the essential list, and then I'll also leave like an extra nice to have list with all sort of the bonus things that I've slowly added to my tool collection over time, but which are not absolutely necessary to get basic jobs done on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, not going to go through every single tool because we'd be here for 2 hours, but I'll leave a link below where you can get all your tools that you need to get started, your basic tool setup for your electrical business.